All right, I think this is looking pretty good. It's not totally perfect by any stretch, but it's kind of doing what I want it to do for the most part. I've come back, cleaned up the line some. If I were maybe turning this in for credit, I might even spend more time with that. Just smoothing out lines, etc., etc. One could also make the argument that, look, I've explored the axial modeling on this thing, and my drawing might be getting close to done. Here's the deal with my shoe. I actually, specifically chose it because it's pretty simple. But your shoe might have a lot of other stuff going on with it. It might have hardware in there, like, snaps or, holes for where the laces go in, or various sundry other things that decorate it. There might be something on the side here with the leather. I've got like this leather thing that comes up here, wraps around, disappears around behind there, and then comes around. So I've kind of explored that stuff and tried to describe that, right? But yours might have other things, okay, depending on what you chose for your shoe. The other thing is that your shoe might actually benefit from describing it in more than just one plane that's repeated. So if you think about this, I've sliced this on the XZ plane. Chop, 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 chop. I could also slice it, as I was saying before, on the YZ plane. So that would be a function of this midline. What does that do? It comes up here like this thing does, disappears, then comes out. I'll be holding my shoe up, but also looking at what I've got going on here. This has got to follow that. So the plane that I'm slicing this with is at a 90-degree angle to the one that I sliced it before, right? It's not rotated in 45 degrees or 30 degrees or 10 degrees or anything like that. I'm making sure that this is following the logic of the midline of my shoe, the profile. And that it's doing the same thing here. Comes around, disappears around behind. Here, where that direction change happens, I might punch it a little. I want to follow. Sure, I'm looking at this, but I'm also kind of looking at that. This might split the difference between those two. Step back from it, look at it. All that business with the topography, how that starts to widen up, that kind of business would happen with this too, potentially. So now I'm going to find one over here. And the deal is, I just don't want to get confused with that one that was going that direction. I might potentially have fewer of these. I moved this thing over on the other side of that because I wanted those to be separate lines, but I got to think about spacing. So I might actually have this line be a little closer. In this case, it comes out a little. up and over that way. I'm holding this thing up. At some point, this kind of makes a little bit of a switch here. So I might try to get some of the characteristic of exactly what my shoe is doing. You can see when I do another dimension on this, or go with a plane that is kind of transverse to the first plane that I did. And it adds even more form to it, right? I suggest you give this a try. These are all tentative at this point. I'm going to play with this. And again, the same thing starts to happen over here with the bread slice, right? At some point, this starts to be a real weird looking shape. It's very, very oblique, and I might want to stop slicing at some point because it gets too weird, you know. But yeah, let me play with this for a minute, and I don't know that you have to sit here and watch me do slice after slice, right? It's that same idea. Comes up, slices out this way this time. Up, up, up. And cuts back that direction. Flat here, flat, flat. And there's a slight bump. And then there's another bump. And then it comes up this way. Up. Goes up and over that little thing. I didn't do that on this one. Should have. Up and over. Do the same thing on both of these. Get that slight little leather lip. Step back from it. Yeah, you know what? I kind of feel like this needs to come down here a little bit more. You try it and then you look at it and see what needs to be adjusted. Then you come back and firm it up. All right, I'll be back in a minute.